Thank you very much for the kind introduction, Steffi. Hello, everyone. I'm Matthias Ballweg. At Circular Republic, we are creating scalable circular economy solutions and here in the Munich startup ecosystem. And it's a big pleasure for me today to talk about an aspect that is not really natural when you talk about circular economy. Circular economy, you all hear for the full day, you listen to all the topics, you realize it's about resources, it's about resource and material use. But we already heard quite a couple of bits that announce the energy transition is connected. We heard that also from this morning from Benedikt Sobotka from Eurasian Resource Group, that the energy transition is the biggest purchase order in the history of the mining industry. So that's quite a complexity. That means, obviously, we need to mine more, use more new materials to get rid from our CO2 footprint. So does this mean that the climate crisis and producing less CO2 is actually done at the cost of the resource crisis and circular economy? So we can't solve the one thing without harming the other, or the other way around? That's a question that I want to discuss with three wonderful people today. What's the role of the energy transition towards a circular economy? How do we get the energy transition done? How much materials do we need for it? And is it worth it in the end? And I'm happy to discuss it with, on the very left, Christian Hartl. He's since 2021 the CEO of Wacker, one of the most innovative companies in the chemical space and the leader in the production of polysilicon, which is used for all the solar panels, and obviously also chips. With Francesco Sortino, he's the CEO of a wonderful company for fusion energy, which might be this source for energy that we're all looking for, and we'll delve into the question whether that's worth it. You're the first spin-off of the Max Planck Institute for Plasma Physics in 60 years, is that right?
That's right, 60 years without a startup, but we made it.
Quite an epical moment. Great that you're here. And with Sebastian from Enapter, he's building electrolyzers to produce hydrogen, and we're very curious what role hydrogen is playing in the whole equation. I'd like to ask all of you for a very short introduction, because I think you all have a crucial role to play. Maybe starting with what's basically your personal drive in the energy transition? Why are you getting up in the morning? And then what's your mission and vision? What can we achieve, and what is the contribution your company is making? And you'll all make it short so we have a good time for the discussion. Please, Christian.
Yeah, thank you, Matthias. And thanks for being here at the DLD. It's always a pleasure to meet great people and to interact. I would like to turn it a little bit around. I tell you first what we do. So we are a chemical company since more than 100 years, founded in Germany. We make a lot of super specialty chemicals. And just to mention one product maybe today and focus on that is polysilicon, which is hyper-pure silicon metal. And that's the purest stuff which is man-made on this planet. And you use it as a raw material for solar cells and for computer chips. And for computer chips, not many people know that every second computer chip on this planet is made with polysilicon from Wacker. Our share in solar cells is a little smaller because there's tough Chinese competition, but we try to catch up. So we make this polysilicon as a raw material for solar cells. On the other hand, the process is super energy intensive. We are one of the largest consumers for electricity in Germany, and here you can see that we are kind of, at the moment, in a very fascinating time with energy prices rising in Germany. So, what motivates me is, I think mankind is at a very crucial step. On the one hand, we have this huge crisis with the climate, and we need to do something. On the other hand, we have the solution in our hands, which is renewable energies, that can solve a lot of these problems going forward. And that makes me super excited and wake up in the morning. What makes me sometimes wake up in the night is that the politicians, especially in Germany and Europe, didn't get it. So they didn't get it, that we have a huge opportunity in front of us and we need to do something, because otherwise it's a problem for the planet, or it's at least a problem for European chemical companies or industries. And that's what I'm fighting for every day, and sometimes I think the name polysilicon comes from politics. But it's different.
Cool. Francesco Shortino. I'm a co-founder and CEO of Proxima Fusion. We are a startup here in Munich. We were created earlier this year as a spin-out of the Max Planck Society in trying to bring a kind of stellarators, a toroidal device with big magnetic fields. We're trying to bring that to market as a way to make clean, abundant, and safe electricity. Fusion has been around forever as the kind of thing that you would want if only you could do it. So fusion is perfect, except that it's very hard. And we think we have a way to bring it to reality. We don't claim that this is going to be the thing that is going to power Bacca Chimie next year, nor in 3 years. This is going to be an ultimate solution for energy. There are now more than 50 companies worldwide that are trying different concepts in fusion. We believe that Germany has done the smartest of the investments. Sometimes we need to recognize when that does happen. And that is an investment in stellarators. If you look for W7X on Google, you'll see what we're all about. This is a device in northern Germany, in Greifswald. It was funded with 1.5 billion euros of public investment. This puts us in an incredible position as Europeans to bring this to the next level. We see ourselves complementing solar, wind, and other renewable sources to really kick out the fossil fuels from the place where at the moment we see them inevitably in our grid. So we're looking for the base load electricity that we can rely on. Yeah, we were funded in January. We got fundraised in February. We moved on a team from the Max Planck, MIT, and Google X into Munich. Over the last 3 months, we doubled in numbers, and we're up and running.
Yeah, Sebastian Schmidt, thank you for being here. It was in 2017 when we had a group of friends together and we looked into global warming and the aspects what we could do best to change the world to the better and reduce CO2 footprint. And in the end, we were very actually desperate, and we actually haven't seen any opportunity. So we looked into the prices, and we thought that we have to reduce the use of fossil fuel. But you can stop fossil fuel only if you do something which is cheaper. So we started to work on green hydrogen, and with a clear idea to be cheaper than fossil fuel. So we had actually some prototypes already working in my own private home, and so it was quite easy from there to move on. Today we are 270 people, and we believe that we can get the price down and reduce the use of fossil fuel only by making the price of green hydrogen cheaper than fossil fuel within the next 2-3 years.
That's super interesting. Hydrogen cheaper than fossil fuels in the next 3 years. Christian, you have in this super interesting double role. On the one hand, part of the solution, providing us with the polysilicon used for the solar panels. On the other hand, I think you said almost a percentage of the German energy consumption is going to your company alone. And energy costs are that huge driver. How are you looking at, for example, Sebastian and his sources? You should have an interest in 2 years to use Sebastian for your instead of natural gas, right?
Yeah, well, at the end of the day, I'm pretty optimistic, despite the next years might be challenging indeed. Why I'm optimistic? I truly believe that renewable energy is the answer. It is the answer for industry. It is the answer for mankind, because it's abundant, and also, like what you mentioned, Sebastian, it is more competitive. So there is no cheaper way to produce electricity than with PV or wind, which is also fine. So therefore, I think ultimately we will reach that point where everything is relying on renewable energy, And then base load is assisted with fusion. I think that would be ultimately the perfect solution. Talking about hydrogen, so actually we use hydrogen also in our processes, which is today still made in a conventional way with natural gas. Of course, we're interested in looking at ways of making it by electrolysis with like Sebastian and Apter company. I think hydrogen is definitely part of the solution. It is if you want sun transformed into a gas, which you can store. Is it the quick solution for Germany, not having enough electricity, green electricity? Probably not. Yet still, I believe we have to work on the infrastructure for a hydrogen grid in Germany today, that it is ready in the 30s, when we have more access to green hydrogen, which we then also can use in our processes and also for the generation of electricity or heat.
You mentioned the grid, the topic of transporting hydrogen. Maybe that's a good segue to you, Sebastian, again. Like, how do you transport hydrogen? How do you solve that?
Well, we don't. We believe that hydrogen has to be produced on site. And this is the reason why we need, let's say, smaller electrolyzer, cheap electrolyzers. We can build everywhere where you have a surplus of energy. So you have it in wind power plants, and you have it on solar roofs, on factory buildings, on storages. So where you actually destroy energy every day, or simply, let's say, cut it from the net.
Where you have surplus.
Yes, take the surplus. Or simply, let's say, use this kind of cheap energy in nights, where you actually, or during the day when you have, let's say, wind or so, and you don't have the consumption. So this is, let's say, one part. Actually, decentralization is a big part of bringing our energy grid in a better situation. So we actually have only to rearrange our energy grid to have a much less we waste energy every day, so power plants actually work for nothing. So we have a permanently overload in the energy system by not using it in the right way. And honestly, there is the German. Well, we paid 900 million euro for research for Syntec, which came out last year, where it very clearly states we need more decentralization and more digitalization for our energy grid, and we can save more than 20% of our primary energy we produce. So the politicians should listen to the research they pay for.
Yeah, Christian would probably echo that. So what I learned so far, the green energy is the cheapest form of energy. In a few years from now, we'll have it
today already.
But it's available, not everywhere, right? Yeah. And we also have an issue of transporting hydrogen. You say don't transport it, produce it where you need it. There'll still be a base load topic. Francesco, you said it's not in the next 5 years. It's maybe even longer. When will you be able to provide the base load so that we really don't need any natural gas anymore?
Yeah, we think we need those renewables that we know already now, that we can keep improving, but we know them. We need them for the energy transition between now and the 2030s. Fusion, we believe, it's very reasonable to have a first-of-a-kind power plant within the 2030s, so the second half of the 2030s. Within the universe of fusion companies, most of them being in the US, you will see hard claims for much faster paths. We don't believe that that's really going to be practically possible. With the Stellarator path, we see that being the clearest and most robust way to get to fusion as fast as possible.
When trying to link those discussions today and talking about material, all of you need quite a bit of material. You need tons and tons of steel for
we need
accelerators,
for the machine itself. The beautiful thing about fusion is that it's so energy dense. What we're basically burning is heavy forms of hydrogen, and a spoonful of fusion fuel could basically be equivalent to 11 tons of coal. That's why we're after fusion. It's because there is nothing as energy dense in the universe. If we could get fusion, then the amount of fuel itself would be ridiculously small. Then that's not the limit. The machines themselves would be pretty sizable. And so you will be looking at having a Stellarator in every city. and that would provide the base load for many of the human activities.
I get the equation for the fuel, right? Super efficient. You made the example earlier, Christian, saying it pays off 30 times the energy that is put into your processes once one makes a solar cell out of the polysilicon. So we can get rid of all the fuel, the natural gas, the oil. That's definitely worth it. What about the other raw materials we put into the process? How much do we need to? How do we keep them in the cycle? Are there already efforts to keep them in the cycle? Is that worth it?
Well, actually, when you actually produce systems, then you should definitely do this kind of cycle economy in the early beginning. If you start, let's say, designing products. So this is what we offer our customers, to take back the modules and refurbish it and bring it back. So in electrolyzer, there are different technologies around. So we are here sitting for AIM, anion exchange membrane, which is not using some critical materials like titanium or iridium in the systems, which makes them actually more cost effective and also more mass producible. So it actually is absolutely important by everything what we are doing, looking into cycle economy topics.
Yeah, and I think to add on this, the importance of recycling material, I think, is essential for circularity. And the renewable energies are not even, I mean, you could say they're an enabler, but I would even say it's a prerequisite. Because all these processes of recycling in general need energy. Now, I'm coming from a chemical company. Being a chemist, I look at the chemical side of the equation. And I mean, if you think about what we did the last 100 years, I mean, for doing a chemical reaction, for making a new product out of something else, we put in energy by burning carbon and getting CO2 out of it and the energy in it. Now we want to make it a circle, say, using the CO2 to make a new product out of it. Now, the good answer is it's possible. The challenge is you need even more energy, because you need the energy in these molecules to split these bonds, and that's thermodynamics, and you cannot get away with it. And therefore, you need electricity or energy. And obviously, this energy needs to be green, because otherwise, the equation doesn't fit. And therefore, again, my pitch would also always be, if we have abundant green energy, you can make all these processes go around. And you can recycle everything on a chemical basis or on a physical basis. But if you are lacking energy, green energy, it will be just much more difficult. And therefore, we need to push that. Yeah.
Yeah. And if I may add to that, the perspective of the world population needing more and more energy, and this not being a trend of just the next 10 years, that's what basically drives us to look for more than what we are currently able to do. And that's the space where fusion could really come in. When we love the photovoltaics as they are become so cheap and so scalable, fundamentally they are absorbing sunlight that comes from a star that is farther away. What we're trying to do is basically make a star in the laboratory. Fusion is what powers the stars. So effectively that's what we are really trying to do, and that is by definition scalable. The raw materials are never that simple, of course. There are complex metals all over the place. But what's interesting about fusion is the density. A power plant would cover, a gigawatt power plant powers a lot of human activities, and the amount of metals that you would need for that is still relatively limited. So it scales very nicely.
Yeah, I like the sun metaphor. In the end, you all have to do with that. You are making us able to use the energy of the sun. You're basically storing it. Hydrogen is liquid sun, if you will. And you're building little suns yourself here on Earth. So that's what the future of the energy system basically looks like, right?
More or less. Building a star on Earth may not seem the most practical thing, arguably, but it's where we have to go. Yes.
Let's get a little bit practical for the audience as a final round. What is something everyone should take away for her or himself when thinking about the energy transition, especially connected to materials. If that person is not running a company producing polysilicon or building fusion or building, how do you call them again?
Electrolyzer?
No, electrolyzer. I was referring to your technology specifically, but if you're not building electrolyzers or fusion generators or solar companies, what can you do? What you need to look out for in order to make sure the energy transition is just paying into the circular economy transition? Who wants to start?
I'm happy to. The key word for me is baseload. I think in the energy transition, we are paying good, important attention to the renewable energies, which, however, have intermittency. We can use hydrogen, but we need to take care of replacing the baseload that is currently mostly coming from fossil fuels. That's where fusion can come in, and we think we need to keep pushing. As of yesterday, the Minister of Research of Germany, Frau Stark-Watzinger, has announced 370 million euros of new funding for public-private partnerships in Germany on fusion, and we think this is the right trend to not only look at what we need to do for the next 3 years, which is obviously important, but also where are we going.
Actually, I have hope because some of our customers, they use electrolyzer to produce hydrogen on site with their own solar panels on their roof and start to bypass or add hydrogen into their gas pipelines for their own use, for example, for building bricks, for heating, let's say, or for the process industry. And this makes me see that actually companies start to do their own things, and despite being frustrated by the energy prices and the energy situation where you are facing, actually, Christian, every day.
Yeah, so from my perspective, what people should take home is, well, the answer is renewable green energy, and you cannot have enough of it. And I think that's something we should also bring more into the society, because we still have, at least in Germany, it's a discussion about, save energy, use less energy. I mean, I'm not, promoting wasting energy, of course, but having green energy in surplus is one of the biggest, I think, drivers of innovation, because you can do everything with it. You can turn things around, you can drive it in circles in both directions, you can drive with cars endlessly. You can do everything you want with electricity. And what I heard in this morning, there was a panel on regenerative agriculture.
Yeah.
And there they said, I think Kirk said it, that could be the answer, or that's the answer to the problems. And I think if you combine that with green energy and renewable energy, then you have the full equation.
So thank you very much for all your pioneering work in the green energy space. I think we also try to solve that very complex question, why we need to invest some materials right now, because it eventually pays off with all the energy we can use. Great that you've been here. Thank you all for listening. Hope we provided some good insight, and have a good rest of the day.